The Department of Governmental Efficiency is making headlines these days for bringing accountability to Washington. The question is, does God have a system of accountability for us as the church?
Let's see what the Bible says about that. Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're here for this. If you are watching for the first time and you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, comment your thoughts down below, share it with a friend, do something with this video, interact with it. I'm glad you're here for this one.
And be efficient with it.
Yeah, be efficient with it. So it's going to be a great podcast. I haven't said that one in a while, so had to bring it back.
Yeah, so we're always looking to be relevant, of course, to take maybe what's popular in the headlines and then see what the Bible says about things like that.
Yeah.
So we're doing that today. We're going to talk about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Love it.
And see if there's some things that God has to say about the church and us as believers. Is there a system of accountability and efficiency that he has for us? So, we're watching some pretty interesting things happen with Elon Musk today and the Department of Government Efficiency. As of the recording of today, they have DOGE has found $54 billion in government wasteful spending. It's crazy. It's just I can't even wrap my mind around that kind of number to begin with.
It sounds like, $54 billion. Okay, yeah, we got that.
Yeah.
But it's like, because you also hear like, like $35 trillion of debt. You're like, okay, yeah, I get that. But it's like, no.
It all sounds like illions.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know, BTRs or M's. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but it's not the first time that people have been concerned about government waste. I mean, I remember for decades that's been talked about, like, did you know the government spends money on spotted owls who live in this island? Yeah, but what are we going to do about that? So,
exactly.
It's not the first time this has happened in the government where someone has said, we need to do something about this. Actually, you go back to 93 and 94, you'll find Clinton and Gore making big advances into streamlining the government. They signed an act for the reduction of federal positions, and they even balanced the budget. I mean, there's a lot of things that Clinton did not do right, but pretty amazing. They were able to balance the budget for the government.
Yeah.
So I think there's a recognition that, no, we should not have waste and we shouldn't have impropriety. There shouldn't be payoffs and kickbacks. But if there's never any accountability, then
that is always going to happen.
Life goes that way. Left to its own, things decay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just what happens. Yeah. It's the process and the order of life. So it seems like DOGE has stepped in under the direction of President Trump, and they're looking to identify any kind of federal regulations that are going beyond congressional authorization, anything that's outside what has been authorized. They're looking for streamlining the federal workforce. Let's get back to a balanced budget. I just can't even wrap my mind around how we get to that place today, but it seems like there's an effort to. And then end any kind of spending programs that are not currently authorized by Congress or are not in line with the current administration or this America First, direction. So. I can't see how anybody would disapprove of that. I mean, there obviously are people who do, but getting to efficiency, getting to lowering cost, back to a balanced budget, which is going to have an impact on us as the end users. I think there's less tax burden, less regulations, smaller government. Those are all good things.
It's the best.
But we've seen a lot of things that have been found by DOGE. So far, just in their early work, there's some crazy things.
2 months into, or the 1 month, a little over a month into this new presidency, which is wild. And there's already been such ridiculously nonsense things that have been found of money spent in the government. And obviously, that's not the whole point of this podcast, but it is good to start out with some comedy around here.
We're going somewhere with it.
Because some of these things are just absolutely nonsense. Like this one, ready for this? $7.9 million. Again, we're talking $1 million. That's a lot of money right there. $1 million is a lot, but $7.9 million was spent on a project that would teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gendered language. Are we loving that? $8 million. That's money.
Take $8 million to do that.
I'd have to say. Sounds like a lot of journalists. Right. And binary gendered language is the primary thing that needs to be.
That's the most important thing.
Needs to be spent.
That's a whole lot of training and education for that to happen.
We'll be loving this one then right here. $1.5 million. Again, a whole lot of money to promote LGBT advocacy in not America, Jamaica.
Wow.
How about that? So we are making sure that the Jamaicans are advocating for LGBT people. $1.5 million of taxpayers to Jamaica for that reason. Gotta love it. How about this one? $2.5 million to promote this good word of inclusion. Just the vagueness. Inclusion in not America, but Vietnam. You gotta love that.
That's crazy.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Do you remember voting for that one? I don't.
No.
I don't think so.
No, not at all.
$2.5 million just to promote, not that anything's actually going to happen, but just to promote the idea of inclusion.
I mean, when you just compare the size of that kind of money to the topic, whatever it is, to the goal, it's like, I mean, I'm not for any of these things, but I wouldn't need that much money to make that happen. So it just lends itself to the fact of something's not right here.
What's going on?
Something is awry. Money's going somewhere that's different than what this stated goal is.
Yeah. So we'll go with a little bit of a smaller one. Not $1 million. We're going $500,000.
Okay.
So a small, meager $500,000 to expand atheism in Nepal, because that is the government's responsibility.
That's the government's responsibility.
In the Declaration,
separation of church and state,
in the Constitution, it says some of these things about expanding atheism in other countries that you don't have anything to do with. $500,000 toward that end. That's terrible. To love that. And then this last one, ridiculous. $6 million, a lot. $6 million to fund tourism, not in America, in Egypt. Are we loving that? $6 million funding tourism in Egypt. You got to have people see the pyramids and stuff.
Exactly. And
that's wild.
This is just the start.
Yeah, this is, and those are just some of the things that we picked that would be funny to share.
The original list we had was twice as long, and then the list I got that from was
5 times as long.
Miles longer. So
look it up. It's hilarious. And at the same time, disgusting.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's sad. And you're like, okay, something needs to be done about this. It's not right. Something's wrong here.
We need some efficiency.
And life does. I mean, I think we all admit to this.
Yeah.
Everybody on some scale needs some efficiency. I know Heather and I experienced this. We'll look in the refrigerator and say, oh, okay, this happened recently. I look in the refrigerator and say, oh, we don't have any mustard. All right, put it on the grocery list. Go to the store, buy some groceries, buy some mustard, come back in, open the pantry to put the mustard in there because we have one.
Haven't opened it.
There's one in the refrigerator that's not quite finished with yet. Open the pantry door, look, there's 3 mustards sitting there already. I don't know how we got 3 mustards, but now we have 4, plus 4. The one that's sitting in the pantry that's not, or in the refrigerator. Like,
you won't have to buy mustard for the next 2 years.
Exactly, because you don't use that much mustard. We don't.
No.
But it's just one of those things like, okay, here's an example. If there's no system in place, I should have gone and checked. Let's see if we have some mustard first.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I just need some mustard, wrote it down, buy some.
Yeah. Waste of money, essentially, is what that is.
On a very micro scale compared to what we're talking about. But it's very real. I think everybody can relate to that. You know, all of a sudden, you find that there's some clothes in the back of your closet that you realize, I hadn't worn that in 5 years, Probably need to do something with that. Sell it, give it away, wear it, something. So life just kind of lends itself to that. There can just be waste. It can happen on very micro scale, but it can happen on large scale too. It happens in corporations, companies, and churches. And it's an interesting kind of side note here, but principle that life just moves from order to disorder.
Yeah.
Life naturally moves from this place of efficiency to chaos and waste. Life moves from life to death. Things don't just naturally improve. So you have to put systems in place to cause things to not move to waste and chaos and inefficiency, and even toward impropriety and even sin. If there are not safeguards put in place, stuff just drifts that way.
Yeah, exactly.
our founding fathers knew this. That's why they built our governmental system on a system of checks and balances. Mm-hmm. They did not want a monarchy, one family ruling over all of us. So they put in place 3 branches of government. They put in place systems of checks and balances where the people elect the leaders. Those are all built off of the idea that man is sinful by nature, his original born nature, and needs systems of accountability because every person is limited. So there shouldn't be anything wrong with systems of accountability on a governmental scale, at least. And as I think as we begin to see in other areas of life as well.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Like there obviously is an absolute need for accountability, and because there's so many things that are in disorder, and God is the one that does bring supernatural order to people in their lives and their minds and their whole life being. He's the one that is the one with all of the order. And so that's what we're getting at here today, is that people naturally will devolve into disorder. Mm-hmm. And so like efficiency is not natural. Waste is natural. The chaos is the natural progression in the way things will go, breaking down and all this kind of stuff, right? So we have to have the mindset that we will sacrifice for the sake of others. Mm-hmm. That is not a natural thing, but we need to be the ones that say we will sacrifice, you know? Right. We need to be the ones that have perspective and insight and wisdom. Those things are not natural, but we as the church ought to be the ones to have that. Yeah. And it's not just naturally going to happen. Yeah. We have to have systems within the church to where we are saying, yes, we are seeking insight, we're seeking wisdom, and God will give these things. We will speak into the lives of other people.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and make my plug here for creationism versus evolution at this moment, because it pictures that again. The evolution theory says things that are in total chaos eventually form into places of order, and that's just ridiculous. Yeah. You can't put all the parts or just some random pieces of metal and springs and glass in a box and shake it up or leave it for millions of years. Never expect to open it and find a watch.
Never ever will you find, oh wow, look at this. This sucker takes total perfect time, clicks right on pace, and tracks a whole 24-hour day. And that's just a watch we're talking about.
It just came together.
Just happened.
It's 3 billion years in the process.
And in fact, it started with just a couple atoms in there. And then eventually, next thing you know, it's all put together.
Yeah, beautiful. It doesn't work that way.
Like, our human's not much more complex than a watch. Yeah. I mean, come on.
But in time, that watch will break down and move toward chaos. Exactly. That's kind of the point here. That's the overall picture. That's the way God's created life. Ever since sin entered the world, everything moves from order to disorder, from a place of purity toward lack of purity, unless systems are put in place, unless God intervenes and people choose to go a different path.
Exactly. So, and we need accountability to happen. And for the people who don't want accountability, typically they're the ones that are benefiting, and they are the ones that are like, hey, don't make a whole big deal about this being inefficient because I'm getting some payoff from this kind of stuff. You know, like to the bad church leaders in church, because that's a real thing as well. Yeah. In the whole scale of the church, there are some people who have been put into positions that are just straight up not good people. They are there to profit off of people. They're going, whoa. Let's not start talking about accountability and efficiency around here.
Exactly.
We want to be the people in our church where we're like, no, we're going to be all about accountability. We're going to be all about efficiency. And we're not going to be afraid of showing who we actually are, right?
Yeah, everything above board, everything open conversation, welcoming to accept conversation and critique if necessary along the way. So I think that's understood. Everybody would recognize those in terms of systems that are necessary in government, in families, in the church. But the question I think today for us is even what about on a personal level as people of the church? Are there systems that God has in place for us that we should be a part of, that we should take advantage of? Because if we don't, even our own personal lives, even our own faith has a pull toward chaos if we don't intentionally put ourselves in systems to prevent that from happening. So everybody needs their own sense of Doge in their life, some kind of department of I need to be punny here.
Godly efficiency.
Godly efficiency. Yeah. But it's true. Yeah. If you want to become more Christ-like, if you want to see the character of Christ formed in you, it will not happen accidentally, randomly, or by chance. It will happen by intentionality and intentionally putting yourself into systems that will facilitate that in your life. Yeah.
So should we just go ahead and plug? This will be a new staff position if you want to be hired as the Department of Godly Efficiency for the church.
Nice.
Send your application to our email for the church. Right. Thanks.
There you go.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the systems that God has designed, and they're very real and they're tangible, and they actually require our intentional submission to them. They are
not a natural thing,
but they are not natural, and many people will choose them, but there are some who will not choose them, and some who will pick and choose.
Yeah.
But to the degree that these 5 are active in your life, if you are intentionally submitting to these do's in your life, you will find faith efficiency. And to the degree that you don't, you will find faith waste, a wastefulness about your faith. Really, you'll be sloppy. There'll be hidden places. There'll be places where you're ineffective, and places that have just honestly kind of gotten fat, and need to be trimmed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about these. The first one on our list today, a system that God has put in place, is the church itself.
Yeah.
For the believer, God has designed the church and placed us in the church. So if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you have been made part of a body. And as part of that body, you become dependent on other members, and those members become dependent upon you. But in reality, that only happens to the degree that you put yourself in that. Though it is true of you, if you choose to not be engaged in and involved in a local body of believers, then you are removing that level of godly efficiency from your life. Scripture talks about this in multiple places. We'll narrow it down to just a couple of verses today, but Hebrews 10, 24 and 25, let us, in plural here, consider one another. In other words, the mindset of the follower of Jesus Christ should be, I'm not considering myself. I, as a follower of Jesus, am all about considering others, those within the body especially. Consider one another in order to stir up love and good works. And the whole concept behind that is, if I'm called to stir up love in someone else and good works, then that means they must need that. Yeah. They need that call. They need that motivation. They need that stirring up. So I'm dependent upon other people for good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another. That's encouraging, building up, really striving to get them engaged, and so much more as you see the day approaching. Here's this call to believers to intentionally engage in church. Now it's interesting today where the time in which we live, and people have a lot of different views about church, and there's a lot of churches you can go to, and the format today frankly allows for just spectator participation. You can really just sit way back off the sidelines.
Show up 10 minutes late, leave 5 minutes early.
Yep. And not engage while you're there.
Yeah.
And then convince yourself I went to church.
Yeah.
And you did. You went to it. But that is not engagement in it.
No.
That is none of the Hebrews 10, 24, 25. That's I go in considering other people. I go in with the desire to stir up love and good works in someone else, not in myself. And I'm exhorting other people. It's all focused on others. So that's a system of efficiency. I mean, I need that because left to myself, I will drift inward.
Yes.
I will drift internal.
Yep.
I will drift introspective. I will drift into taking care of me only.
Yeah.
And the church is such a fabulous way of weeding that out of your system if you'll allow it.
Exactly. I mean, we've said it before here on the podcast. Even the church is not. It's not like a car wash where you just pull up, toss the car in neutral, turn the brain off. Hopefully, by the end of the sucker, I look different and I'm clean, and then I'll go get my free vacuum and walk out of here. But
maybe a new scent.
Maybe might. But the church is very much like a gym. You don't just stroll in. And then you just look around. Yep. All right. Cool. See everyone here, and I'm out of here. You know? But this is something you're stepping in. You're encouraging someone else. Hey, pal, you got it. I see that weight you're lifting, and I'm going to cheer you on and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to help you out. I'll spot you even, you know. And now I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to lift some weights. I'm going to even get myself maybe into a little bit of pain so that I can grow, right? And so that's what the church is. It's like the spiritual gym that you go and you're a part of. And you have to submit yourself to it. You've got to die to self. You've got to be a part of this rather than just attending it. You've got to go and be a part of it. And it's not just when you feel up to, man, I really feel like going to the gym, you know. For a lot of people, that doesn't naturally happen. That doesn't happen until you've seen the payoff or until someone has said, hey, come along with me. The same thing is true about the church. This is not like, let us consider one another whenever you kind of feel like it, whenever, you know, but this is to be the discipline in our life that keeps us efficient, you could say, that keeps us having the mentality of like, okay, this is what God loves and this is what he's after. So I want to be a part of this. That's what the church is.
Yeah. And from the leader side of the church, we can't force anybody to do anything.
No.
I mean, you could try to force people and guilt people and shame people, and
they're out of there.
But that's not good. That's not going to work.
It's not love. It's not real.
No. And so it becomes every person's task, you know, to say, okay, I'm going to engage. I'm going to not make me the center of this experience today. I'm not going to just sit back, spectate, and not participate. I'm going to engage. I'm going to give myself away. That is where the efficiency comes in for the person who's willing to do that.
Yeah. So good.
All right.
Love it.
The second one today is an interesting system that God has built into the fabric of life. And you can't get away from this. It's real.
Everywhere.
It's real, whatever country you go to. It's real, whatever time period you were dropped into. And it is the system of work and reward.
Yeah.
God has established that. Proverbs 12, it says this a lot in Proverbs, but you find the hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy man will be put to forced labor.
Yeah.
Those who work receive a benefit. They receive pay, but they also receive recognition, and they probably will receive promotion. The diligent are the ones who rule. And so God has established this system that works in employment, it works in a home, it works in church, it works in a community. It's just a truth that wherever there is effort, wherever there is hard work and sacrifice, that gets rewarded. So what's crazy is when you find systems, attempted governmental systems, socialism, communism, that attempt to not reward hard work, they eventually don't work. The systems don't work. If they try to equal pay everyone and reward people who are not working, it doesn't work.
No.
But here God has established a system, and you find it in the New Testament as well, as they're struggling to live out their faith, and they're finding this situation. Well, what about someone in the church who doesn't work, but we're giving them lots of benevolence,
money,
care? What do we do with them? And Paul answers the question, 2 Thessalonians 3:10. If anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. That's cooperating with God's system. God rewards those who serve and are obedient and faithful.
Yeah. And one thing I will say is that the verse says, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. It doesn't say if anyone doesn't work.
Or cannot.
Yeah, but if anyone is actively choosing, no, I'm not putting in the work for this. Don't let him. He should not eat.
No, you're going in the opposite direction of God's systems that he has established.
You're entitled. You're saying, it's all about me. You operate on my timetable. You give me things.
I deserve.
There's no longer a gift. There's no longer grace. It's no longer love. You're literally just And you're not even meeting a need, you're meeting a demand.
Yes.
You know, like that's not what the gospel is. It's like, okay, meet the list of demands from everyone else. And you become then the slave to them. But if they are not going to work, if they're actively choosing to, then you are not responsible to say, I have to meet their every need.
Yeah. The system works, work and reward. It works in relationships as well. To those who will sacrifice and serve and be diligent and be faithful, there will be a reward to all of that.
Yeah.
It's a system God has established. Now, the thing is, it happens regardless of what you do. This system is in play. It's almost like gravity. God has put it in place. But to those who will intentionally recognize it and lean into it, they will benefit from it.
Yes.
It's like if you recognize what gravity is, you can benefit from it.
Yeah.
Try to ignore it. Not gonna work out so well for you.
Exactly. So this is literally a way. This is the order in which God has given us. Here is how you have checks and balances.
Yep.
You don't get to live your life just arrogant always, but you live your life serving, humble, and there will be reward to that.
That's right. The third one is similar to this, but a little bit different. It is the reproofs of life. That's not a word I use a whole lot, and is reproof, but the Bible refers to it as the reproofs of life. In other words, life has a set of consequences that play out whether you want them to or not. And kind of like gravity, if you go against gravity, life is going to reprove you and show you truth. Another similar topic with this is the idea of discipline, that God disciplines us according to what he is perfecting in us. And so Proverbs 15 tells us this: the ear that hears the rebukes or the reproofs of life will abide among the wise. And so if we are careful to listen to life and God as life is playing out, and you suffer and you struggle and there's consequences, and you recognize, okay, there's a cause and effect set of sequences here playing out, and I'm the one who keeps railing against it. I'm trying to do my own thing. I'm going to go against the flow, and it's not working. The wise person hears that and says, I'm going to change my ways. Every relationship I've got is wrecked right now.
Yeah.
That's a reproof of life. I'm not earning any money right now. I've been fired from my job. I don't have any friends right now. Well, there's a reason for all that. Life is reproving you. God is disciplining you. And the wise one recognizes this. And so, you walk through life long enough, you church long enough, just around people, you see people those who recognize it, and they're going down one path for a while, and they realize, man, I'm making some foolish decisions. I'm done. I'm done with all that. I'm going to change my life. And there's reward, and they get wisdom from it. But there's other people that it seems like everyone else looks and sees and says, man, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And they just blow right past you. They don't want to listen to you. They tell you you're the one that's wrong, and they just keep on making foolish decision after foolish decision. They're not among the wise. They're just still victims of the rebukes of life, and it's sad to watch that happen.
For sure. And like a lot of people are afraid of pain these days, or this thing of rebuking or reproof. But pain can be, and sometimes is, the thing that God will use to say, hey, it's time to stop. It's time to shift. It's time to move the course of your life, because the way that you're going is not the right way, right? And I think pain and the reproofs, the rebuking, it's all meant to mold you into the image of Christ. It's not meant to just kick you while you're down, but it's meant to catch your attention. It's meant for you to recognize, oh, this is not a good thing that I'm doing. I need to shift. I need to change. And so that's what this is. The discipline is right in line with that. Discipline can bring pain, but it's for the purpose of molding who you are, of refining you, of changing the way you operate.
Yeah.
Imagine making you more efficient.
Exactly. And foolish people, they kick against all of that.
Yeah.
They kick against the goads, the directing stick of God to try to just go in a certain direction. The stubborn animal kicks against the stick, against the very direction that the rider is trying to direct them in.
Yeah, which brings more pain.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that Proverbs 15 passage there, it says, "He who disdains instruction despises his own soul." Ooh, that is very revealing. Like the one who just keeps railing against life and God, they despise themselves. They hate even who they are. It's sad.
It's terrible.
But here is a system that God's put in place, and it's at play. It's happening. The ones who are wise, they intentionally submit to it. They put themselves in the efficiency position, rather than the system of just selfishness and waste.
Yep.
All right, number 4, a system that God has established for efficiency is people and relationships that you allow in your life. Now, we all have the choice of allowing people in or not allowing people in, of putting up barriers and not letting anyone in to see who we are, what's going on, where we've been. Or we can choose to intentionally be, walls down. I want my life to be open. I want people to see. I want to hear. I want to hear correction. I want to hear direction. That's the wise person. And this is a system that God has created. And this ties back in with so many of these, even with the idea of the church is, the one who surrounds himself with wise people, you'll be wise. You'll become like the people you walk with.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 15 says that he who walks with wise men will be wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed. And so the people that you have around you will be the ones who can speak life to you, and they will speak direction to you.
Yeah.
But
it's true.
They will.
Yes, you will be molded by the people you're around the most.
Yeah, I listen to certain people talk about their political views, and I can tell who they listen to. It's pretty easy. Or tell me who you listen to, and I already know what your political views are.
Theological views.
Social views.
Family relations.
Yep. Just tell me who you hang with. Tell me who you listen to. Tell me some podcasts.
Yeah.
I already know.
What shows do you watch?
Yeah, exactly. I already know all of those. So this is a system that God has put in place. And wise people submit to the system.
Yes.
And they intentionally put people in their life who love the Lord, who are walking in faith, who want to grow, who want to change, and they will become more like them. This is true for your personal faith. This is true for marriage. This is true for business. This is true for ministry. Whoever you're reading, listening to, looking at is who you will become like.
Yeah.
It's a system that God has put in place.
Absolutely. And so we, as people who are the ones being operated on, you could say, as if we are the ones that like this Doge is working on and is going to say, hey, that right there is not good for you. Hey, that needs to get taken out of your life.
Right.
We're to submit to that, and we're to welcome correction.
Yeah.
Welcome critique whenever, if someone in your life or you're listening to this and the Holy Spirit's like, yeah, that person right there, that group of friends, that show, this habit, this, whatever it is, you're like, you got to change that. We need to be like, I hear you, God. Yes, I'm making that change.
Yeah, it's true. All right, the last system, and we're just dealing with 5 today. There's probably 15, 20, that we could discuss, but for the sake of a podcast and a length of time here, we're going to limit it to 5 today. Yep. The last one is perhaps the biggest one, and like all of them, it's one that you have to choose to intentionally submit yourself to. You can dismiss all 5 of these if you want.
Yeah,
and I know Christians who do.
And your life will reflect that 100%.
It'll show up.
What is going on with your faith? And why do you say this, but you look way different?
Yeah. And then someone will look at your life if they ever get a chance, and they can probably make a list of all the places that there's waste.
$6 quadrillion spent.
Did you know you're spending time doing this? You're spending money doing this. You're spending a lot of thought time doing this. You're spending your emotions doing this. You're spending relational values with these people. Do you know you're spending?
Come on.
You just keep on going.
Waste, fraud, abuse.
And not in line with the values of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your Christian life, fraud.
Yeah.
You're wasting your time. You're abusing those around you. Ouch. You need Doge.
You need a Doge. The fifth one today, the system that God has put in place to help us be efficient, is eternity.
Yeah.
Every one of us at some point will leave the temporal and enter the eternal.
Yep.
It'll either be by our death or it'll be by the return of Jesus himself. But you will enter into eternity. If you put your faith in Jesus Christ, you'll spend it with him. If you have not, you will not spend it with him. But even for those who are the believers, in being with Christ, there are certain rewards that you will receive based on what you have done in this life. That's like a recent podcast we did as well. But eternity then serves as this efficiency system for us. So 2 Corinthians 5:10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. This is not for your standing in eternity, whether you're going to be with Christ or not with Christ. This is going to be, even as a believer, you will still stand before the judgment seat of Christ to be rewarded or not rewarded based on the things that you did here in the temporal. The things that you said, the things that you did, whether or not they'll be rewarded or not. That becomes a system of efficiency. It's like, okay, I'm going to keep that in mind, and it's going to therefore shape my pursuits, my priorities, my values, my words, my time, my relationships, my talents, every bit of that. Now I'm going to shape with that in mind. Boy, that has an effect on us.
Yeah.
You know, if I know that every word I speak is going to have weight to it in eternity, then I'm going to carefully consider my words.
So
I should.
Yeah.
If I know
if you are using this system.
Yeah, if you're submitting to the system.
Yeah.
If I know that every moment, every time period is going to be evaluated for reward or not reward, then I want to evaluate my time, how I'm using my talent, how I'm using what has been given to me.
So good.
If there's going to be a judgment on that, not for my eternal standing, but for my eternal reward, then that has an effect on me. It should cause me to want to be much more effective and efficient in using what I have for the king's sake, for the values of the nation, the kingdom of God that we're a part of. But this has to be something you intentionally submit to.
Yeah.
It's going to happen one way or the other, but if you want to benefit from it, then you have to submit to it.
Yeah.
And that just becomes a choice that we have to make.
Yeah. And by submitting to the system, it will refine you. It will purify you. It will change you. And that's what we're all about at the church. Like we want every person who's a part of our church to look more and more like Christ.
Yeah.
That's just straight up what we are all about at the church, you know? And so we are going to push these systems, you could say, push these accountability truths in our church as a ways to say, this is what we're all about, right? So you have this passage from 1 John chapter 3. It says this, beloved, now we are children of God, and it has not yet been revealed what we shall be, but we know that when he is revealed, we shall be like him. So there you go. It says, for we shall see him as he is, and everyone who has this hope in him purifies himself, and he is pure. So that's what we're all about at Vertical, is purifying the church with these systems of efficiency, with these systems of cleansing, you should say, maybe even refining. And purity.
Yeah. You know, this judgment seat that Paul referred to here, it talks about the fact that there will be, everything we've done will be brought to a test, and there'll be a fire.
Yeah.
And the things that have just been, even if you've just added by wood, hay, and stubble, if they didn't mean anything for eternity, they'll be burned up.
They'll
be worth nothing. But if you have built upon the foundation of Jesus with with gold and precious stones,
yeah,
then those things will go on into eternity. So the system of efficiency will lead to reward.
Yeah.
There's going to be a refining one way or the other.
Exactly.
And so you can choose to let it refine you today.
Yeah.
And then gain the reward. Or you can wait till that day and let it refine with the gamble that, was it right?
Yeah.
Will it be good?
Yeah.
And it may not be.
So good.
So this awareness, this truth then causes us, it should cause us to like, okay, let's get after this, Doge. Let's refine some things. Yeah. I'm gonna refine my day, my time, my thoughts, my words, my relationships, my everything about me, my priorities, and live it all for the sake of the kingdom from which I'm a part of.
And having the humility to say, I'm submitting to the systems that God has put in place to refine us.
Yeah.
So good.
So, I mean, that kind of begs the question then, are you putting yourself in a system? Are you in the system of the church?
Yeah.
Or you're intentionally putting yourself in an engaged role within a local church? Are you submitting to the system of work and reward?
Yeah.
Are you submitting to the system of the rebukes of life or the discipline of God? Are you submitting to the system of allowing people into your life? Can people see you? Can people know what's going on? Do you allow them to speak to you? And then are you submitting to the system of eternity? It will judge all things one day.
Yeah.
But we can allow it to judge us today.
So
good word for us today. Yeah. We need a Doge.
Yep.
We do. So if you want more, come see us at Vertical. Come see what God's doing here as we are all putting ourselves in the systems that God has created for us to live effectively and become efficiently crafted into the very image of Jesus himself. So keep lifting him up and living him out.